Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joar, and today is May Day, May 1st, 2025. Happy May Day, everyone. And I have the wonderful Abrar Al-Heeti here with me from CNET. Hi, Abrar. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing so well. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
I'm really glad to have you on. We've been kind of like ships navigating in the night. Hi, how's it going? And I've really enjoyed your work. We're going to talk about some of the stories you've written recently that I think are pretty cool.
Thank you.
A quick little update for the people on Patreon. I have a new microphone. It's right here, so this is exciting. Let me know in the, in social and stuff how you think it sounds. I want to give this company a quick little shout out called Rig. They sent me this mic to try it out, so. There we go. It's called the M2 Pro HD. Verdict is still out. Usually I use a Shure mic, so let me know what you think. I also bought a pair of Beyerdynamics because I use them at the studio in San Francisco, and here in Vancouver I didn't have a pair. I was using my Sony, the MX5 wireless Bluetooth headphones, but I was using them wired, and it was always like connecting, disconnecting. Now I've got a permanent setup. I'm getting there, guys. I'm getting there. So, Abrar, thanks for being here. Let's talk about that comparison you did between the Pixel 9 Pro Fold and the Find N5 from Oppo. I think this is really a valid comparison because, obviously these are the two hot folding phones that you can kind of get in North America. I mean, the Oppo is a little harder to find, but of all the Chinese folding phones that are incredible, like Xiaomi and all that, this is probably the one that, if either that or the Honor Magic B3 is one of those two, like super slim is what you're going to go for, right?
Exactly. And that's really what blew me away about this. And the trade-off with slim phones is often, okay, how's the battery life going to be? How's the camera going to be? And the Find N5 was impressive in both regards, in my opinion. And so the clear path was to say, okay, well, how does it compare to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which obviously also has a stellar camera, even if it's not as thin and sleek. And so I did a photo comparison of this. Let's start with the outdoor shots that I did. Kind of across the board, but especially in outdoor shots, I felt like the Pixel did a better job of giving those more true to life colors. The Find N5 brightened things up, which is nice. And again, this thing always boils down to personal preference, but the Pixel photos just looked a little bit more authentic in terms of vibrancy and shadows and detail. And that was especially evident in outdoor photos, which I took in the bright California sunlight. So you get as much color as you want with either one. But even switching into portraits of my friends, for example, there's a beautiful smoothing effect that Pixel phones tend to do.
I like it.
Right, which really sold it for me too. It's flattering, whether it's in selfies or a portrait shot. But then, then the next ultimate test is night mode, right? What happens in the dark. So the Find N5 didn't necessarily nail shadows as well as the Pixel did. There's a bit too much kind of darkness that is a bit overdone on the Find N5 versus the Pixel does a better job of smoothing that. But I feel like you have thoughts about this. I feel like as I see the wheels turning.
No, I think it's interesting because, I've got the Find X8 Ultra here, right?
Oh, yes.
And I've had the Pro before that. And those are stellar. And I think that you touched on two really interesting things. Like I went into the Find N5 because I wanted it to be my OnePlus Open 2 replacement, right? Like we all kind of thought that was going to happen. It didn't. Thankfully, Oppo sent me the Find N5. And so the two things that came out of my time with it was, that the ultra wide is a step down. And, in that sense, I think the Pixel 9 Pro Fold from a hardware perspective is also a step down. The telephoto, the ultra wide are like these 10 megapixel sensors compared to like the much bigger sensor you'll find on a Pixel 9 Pro XL like this, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, but the thing about the Pixel is that it retains that consistency of imaging across all Pixel, even the 9A that we just got, right?
Right.
Regardless of sensor, regardless of hardware, you've kind of had that baseline. And it's a solid baseline and it's predictable.
Exactly.
But I think with Oppo, I kind of like the contrasty look, but I think you're right in that sense that I was expecting after, Oppo has been developing their imaging pipeline for a number of years. The Oppo Find X2 Pro, that's just like a 2020 or so when I reviewed it, it was the beginning of their color science really nailing it, and the beginning of them really getting imaging right at the entire Oppo BBK group. And we saw that with the Hasselblad partnership eventually. OnePlus is kind of following closely. But if you compare, say, the OnePlus 13 with the Find N5, or the X8 series like that I have with, it's not, the N5 is not quite there, even though it does have the Hasselblad branding. It does have like the same supposedly imaging pipeline. I'm just not seeing it. The main sensor, like, forget the ultra wide for a second. The main sensor in the telephoto should deliver similar results to the X8 Pro at least, and I'm not quite seeing that.
That's surprising.
And I don't understand it. And I'm not the only one. And I think that that's kind of what you're seeing in your comparison, Like the Pixel, solid, for me, the thing about the Pro Fold was that I could see the difference between that and a Pro XL or 9 Pro regular.
Right.
And as somebody who was hoping that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold would be my folding phone finally, that I'd switch full time to a book style, because I've had OnePlus Open and Pixel 8 Pro previously, right, in my pocket, side by side. Productivity versus kind of everyday life. But I wanted to combine, and I couldn't really do it. Like, I'd switched for a little while. And I was like, too many compromises on the camera. And I feel the same way about the Find N5. It's like, I'm like, why is it that I feel almost, and you tell me what you think here, that OnePlus Open is a better camera?
I actually haven't had the opportunity to test that, so I'll take your word for it. But what you bring up is a great point in terms of what actually matters at the end of the day, right? You have these phones that have these really cool form factors, and having a full, book style foldable is great because that real estate, when you've opened it up and it turns into a mini tablet, is fantastic. But if the camera isn't fully what you want, it doesn't matter. And that's part of why this camera comparison was such a telling moment, because I was blown away by the Find N5 in every regard. And again, the pictures are great, right?
Oh, it's solid.
But it's still, when you compare it to other phones, there's still a bit of that's missing. And to think that can overshadow even your decision to switch to any type of fold, even if you were looking at the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, to think that if that camera isn't fully there in terms of what you want, nothing else really matters.
I mean, I don't know if you've listened to the show much before, but I'm always joking around that I'm got Stockholm syndrome about pixels. Like I my captures treat me well kind of thing, because like I love the software so much that I'm willing to live with all of the over the years issues of pixels, including the tensors chips, which I still think suck. But when I went to the Pro Fold, I was like, now I'm compromising on the thing that I really don't want to compromise on, is the cameras. And then, using the OnePlus Open, for example, as my main, or the Find N5 as my main, would be compromising my software experience insofar that, those features. It's not overall, I really like ColorOS or Oxygen OS. I think they're not as great as, maybe a Nothing OS or a what Motorola brings, which is very kind of pure, or even Pixel, right? But I think that I like it better than like One UI. I like it better than Xiaomi stuff. But I think that I couldn't switch, because that's why I had the Open in one pocket and the 8 Pro, and now I'm back at like 9 Pro XL plus Find N5 in my pocket, because the Find N5 compromise, I feel, on the cameras more than the OnePlus Open because of that ultra wide in particular. But with the things you've observed in your story, I'm seeing as well. And it's kind of odd because you think like 8 Elite, Hasselblad, you've got 8 Elite and Hasselblad on the OnePlus 13, and the photos are not the same. Like, even though the sensors, like main sensor at least, are very close. So I don't know.
Isn't that fascinating? If even all the specs align, there's something that doesn't
and I
necessarily
think,
carry
we're
over.
nitpicking, of course, but I think
It's what we do.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I think it's also interesting because I feel like maybe it needs more tuning, because the OnePlus Open took a while to get to where it's at, and because the Find N5 has such a small market, like, it's sold in Singapore and like, like so a few Asian places, and then China, right? That's it.
And I am surprised that I'm not surprised it didn't launch in the US, but not launching in Europe is wild.
It is wild. I mean, overall, not getting a OnePlus Open 2 after the success. I mean, I understand like this is a difficult time with the economy, the tariffs, whatever, but I think also it we love the OnePlus Open,
Mm-hmm.
but who bought it?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
You got to justify the business, ROI, whatever you want to call it. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I think this. I'm going to link, of course, to your story. I think people
Thank
should
you.
check it out because it gives you a good feel for where we're at, kind of a state of the art in folding phone imaging.
Right.
And it's going to get better. There are
Yeah.
some phones out there that, like if you follow Ben Sin on YouTube,
Mhm.
he has access to a lot of these Chinese folding phones that we can't get at all, like the Xiaomi ones and the
Right.
Vivo ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could get them, we can import them, but
Right.
we don't, it's hard to get us PR/like
Mhm.
review units.
Yeah.
So you should check out his comparisons as well, because there are other players. If you want to import another phone, there are other options.
Yeah.
I still feel though that the Find N5, I've used it here in North America, both in Canada and the US without any issues, unless you're on Verizon.
Mhm.
So it's not like a big deal breaker if you want to import this and use it in the US. That's
Yeah.
why I think your comparison is even more valid, because
I
it's like,
appreciate that.
Yeah,
I was hoping
yeah.
that would be the case. But yeah, you're right. Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
You're right, exactly. Let's talk quickly about this news item that popped up on Pixels. So Nick Sutrich has been on the podcast many times, and he suffers from this thing where he notices flicker on displays when they're dimmed down and they don't use a high refresh PWM, the pulse width modulation, the stuff that makes the dimming happen without flickering. And Pixels unfortunately flicker a lot when dimmed. So do iPhones. A lot of the US model phones do that, but all the Chinese phones, like Honor was the first one to do that, but then now BBK Group, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus, and on Xiaomi, all their high-end phones now that have, this is an OLED problem, by the way, OLED only, but we live in an OLED only world now. But if you dim the screen too much, DC dimming is one solution where it doesn't flicker at all, but normal PWM is kind of low frequency and it flickers and it makes people sick. And Nick is one of those people. I don't feel it, obviously. But the news is that apparently Pixel, he broke the story. Pixel is coming with a solution possibly on Pixel 10 series for that. And I think that's an accessibility thing that really matters, right? What's your take on this quickly?
I agree. I mean, I don't experience this, but it seems like enough people do that this needs to change. And any accessibility related feature, you fix it for one group of people, everybody benefits.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great change, and also just about the quality of that product. And if you're able to level up that display in that way, why not? And how cool! It seemed like even he was surprised that they actually responded with that update. So that's a really cool get.
I'm glad they're noticing, because I feel like the US market phones are lacking in that field. Like if you're, a lot of you are listening to the podcast and you'd love to buy a Find N5 or whatever, you can't afford it because you like to get your phone subsidized because you're on a family plan or whatever. And I totally respect that. So, you're going to go out and buy like maybe a Pixel 9 Pro Fold, great phone, but it doesn't have PWM dimming that's high frequency. So if you suffer from this, you're not going to be a happy camper. So this coming to Pixel is exciting because it might be meaning Samsung's going to do it too. And then hopefully Apple. Now they all have it to varying levels. It's just not high enough for the kind of condition that Nick has. I'll put his Android Central story in the show notes, folks. So yeah, I think this is good news. Related to that, we've got some, again, we're talking rumors and things here. You wrote an entire article about like it's magical. It's amazing because it's all in one place. If you want to know anything about the iPhone 17 rumors, folks, Abrar's got you covered.
Yes.
So check it out.
We'll
put it in the show notes. Do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, I do. I have to get this pulled up because at this point I'm like, I can't even remember all this stuff. So this is something I'm constantly updating just because the rumors don't stop, right? We're all so always interested in what the next iPhone will look like, but especially when there are rumors about a thinner version of the iPhone Air as we're calling it now. And so, so far the rumors for that are 6.6-inch screen. Essentially, this would be slightly smaller than the iPhone 16 Plus and iPhone 16 Pro Max, but obviously still bigger than that baseline model.
Right.
And 5.5 millimeter thickness. I was going to say inch. No, 5.5 millimeter thickness. And then the price is something that it's been rumored to be around $900, which this would essentially replace that Plus model, right?
Right.
But that that price is now something with tariffs. Who knows how much any of these phones will cost, right? But before all the tariff madness, that was the idea, is it would be priced around the same as the 16 Plus and replace it. The thing that, we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Find N5 is cameras, right? How are cameras impacted by that thinner device? It's possible that this would only have one main camera, so you wouldn't have that ultra wide or 5x telephoto lens. And people who get a iPhone 16e are perfectly content with one camera. But if you're spending money on an iPhone 17 Air, you're going to spend a little bit more. So just, are you okay with having one camera on that device? But they'll likely find ways to still level up that experience. But the other piece of it is, what is battery capacity like? And we don't really have information on that yet. But those are the two big things: camera and battery. How is that impacted? So I feel like you have a thought about that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I was just going to say the battery. I think the big question will be, are they switching to silicon carbon batteries? Which
Right.
Honor started. All of China has moved to that on their flagships. That's why the Find N5 is so thin. We haven't seen Samsung do that yet. And I'm a little worried
Yeah.
about the S25 Edge. We're about to talk
I
about that,
know,
because if it
yes.
doesn't have, because I think they're still traumatized by they have PTSD from the Note 7, right?
Yep.
So they're like, they need
Exactly.
therapy. I've been
Yeah.
telling Samsung that. Anyway, but I'm like, let's see if Apple actually goes with that, because if they
Yeah.
did, it would make a lot of sense. And then that single camera, I know this is not going to happen because Apple's very conservative and very evolutionary.
Yeah.
But what I'd love to see, and there's a solution to this, one camera problem, if you want to call it that, is put a 200 megapixel sensor in there that and an ultra wide lens. So you have OIS, you have all the autofocus stuff that you normally would.
Yeah.
But you start at 13 millimeters. And so 2x, you crop, it becomes 26, which is like roughly the 1x that you normally get. And then, from there, you can crop again to 2x more. So now you're at, kind of 2x telephoto. And of course, you lose in low light a little bit, but assuming you get a big enough sensor in there and you do some really great image processing, it could fly. I don't think Apple would do that, because that's like kind of like, out there pushing the envelope stuff. But I'd love to be proven wrong, right?
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I think that cropping is going to be what saves the day there.
I mean, no matter what, even if it's just a 1x optical sensor, and it has a 50 megapixel standard, iPhone 16 Pro sensor in there with the sensor shift OIS and all that, I think you'll be able to punch into 4, 5, maybe even 8x without too much trouble, like you can today. But beyond that, you're going to be limited because you don't have this dedicated telephoto. I'm also excited to see the rumors that the telephoto on the Pro series is switching to 48 as well now. So maybe we'll get a lossless 2x on that, which if it's 5x gives us 10x, right?
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then 12 gigs of RAM for Apple Intelligence is another rumor.
That's a big deal and makes sense. And we were talking about displays earlier. I think one of the really big things that people would be really excited about is hopefully, rumor has it that the non-Pro models will have that 120 hertz display. Because I think people are so over the 60 hertz refresh
I know
rate.
we all. I mean, I really noticed it. Like I've got, I'm using my 16e here. By the way, my review for this, folks, if you're watching on Patreon, I'm holding a 16e in a case. This is coming out tomorrow on Hot Hardware. I know I'm way behind the curve, but I got a 3,700 word review. Okay. So like you're going to get some juice. Okay. But this is recording backup audio right now. And this phone, I noticed the refresh. It's really rare that I do, because I'm not super sensitive to it like some people are. But on this phone, I'm like, whoa, the scrolling is so jaggedy. Like
it makes
and I know it's not the processor chugging. I mean, it's an A18. It's just like la la la. It doesn't care. But I think that it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this Air. This is my first review unit from Apple in many years.
Exciting.
The last time I got one was when I was still at Engadget. 13? So I've managed to rebuild that relationship.
I love that. I'm so
very
happy
excited.
for you.
Yeah. So hopefully, maybe if you're listening, Apple, iPhone 17 Air.
Yes,
that's the only one I really need, because I kind of the one that's the most excited. I always buy the Pro every year anyway, more or less for my work. So
exactly.
I'm not an iPhone user primarily, but it's nice to have one around for video and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what those cameras look like. In terms of the layout, because there's been so much back and forth about whether it'll look like the Pixel bar, whether it'll look. That's the thing that's just been so contested.
I don't mind what I'm seeing in those blanks, whatever you want to call them, dummy phones that we're seeing doing the rounds, honestly.
Yeah.
So before we jump into, we kind of talked about thin phones, and the Edge is another thing we mentioned. There's a couple of news items on that, but before we jump into them, I would love to hear your thoughts on something you recently reviewed or talked about, which is Samsung's new, rugged devices. It's interesting because we never hear much about them. We never see much in terms of reviews. And every year or two, they come out with new ones. And, the only time you really hear about rugged phones in North America is when Verizon launches a Kyocera, one of their rugged phones, right? That are pretty great. I've had them over the years. They're pretty awesome. They're expensive. They're then more designed for fleets of workers out there that do construction and stuff like that. But I think the Active series or the X cover or whatever is more geared towards kind of anyone really, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what Samsung highlighted is, okay, this is, technically it's geared towards, enterprise uses, but anybody can have this phone. And so if you're somebody who's like, I don't really care about how sleek my phone is, I just want it to last and be durable. This is the X Cover 7 Pro is one way to go, right? And so one of the big differentiating factors here is it has a replaceable battery and up to 2 terabytes of micro SD support, things that you don't tend to find on most phones. So think of this as above the Galaxy A series, but below the Galaxy S series. We still actually don't have pricing yet for this, which is interesting. But still waiting on that. But you get a 4,300 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty great. There's an IP68 rating, which is just like the S25 series. And then the interesting thing here is the AI features, right? So you still get things like object eraser and edit suggestions for photos and things like that, circle to search, all that stuff you still get on this phone. And I'm not surprised by that, given the fact that every company is going to keep pushing their AI features, regardless of what phone you get. So I think that really drives home the point that this is a staple. Like AI is not just something for the premium phones. It's in all the budget phones. It's in these, more enterprise oriented, durable phones. So, really, really curious about, how this will be received.
Absolutely. We're going to talk shortly about a phone that I know all of you are excited about that costs just over $200 and also has AI. So I think it's going into everything. So, check that out, folks. I'll put a link to that CNET story from Abrar about these phones because we don't really get to hear much about them. So I'm kind of glad you covered them because every time they come up, I'm like, oh yeah, those exist, right?
Yeah, I know. That's an option.
I'm so sorry, I forgot about you.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And you still get those 7 years of OS and security updates too, so you get to hang on to it a bit longer.
You get basically all the Samsung's goodness, which is great. Speaking of, so we talked about the Edge. There's a couple of news items that came out here that I think are interesting. The specs for the cameras have leaked, and I talked about 200 megapixel camera for the iPhone 17 Air earlier. This is actually looks like it's happening for the S25 Edge. We're getting a 200 megapixel main sensor, which means that you'll be able to do some pretty crazy zooming, I think, assuming probably 10x will still look pretty good. Maybe with some AI, you can do 20 or 30x like you can do on the Oppo Find X8 series. And then there's a 12 megapixel ultra wide, which is wah, wah, wah. But again, you're trying to, fit all this into what supposedly is a 5.8 millimeter chassis and probably without silicon carbon battery. So probably they want some battery life,
right.
So that's kind of one of those latest kind of leaks. And then related to that, we have a little bit more information on the timeline. So it looks like May 13 is when it's going to launch in China and South Korea. And then the rumors is we'll get a launch in the US like end of May, like May 30th or something. Again, these are just kind of rumors and leaks. Nothing's confirmed. We don't know anything.
Right.
And even if we did, we couldn't tell you.
Exactly.
We don't know anything. Genuinely, we don't know anything this time. So I don't know. I'm excited about these thin phones simply because, it's not about the thickness for me. It's about having something new in terms of form factor, because bar phones are so boring and so hard to make interesting. And if thickness is to be it, then okay, fine. I'm with it. I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's essentially what my MWC wrap-up piece was, because you might have played around with the Techno Spark Slim at MWC, and that's still a concept, right? And so you have that, but then you also have the S25 Edge, and you have this all the rumors about the iPhone 17 Air, and you think, so my question was, why are we doing this? Like, what's the reason for it? And the people I spoke with, the analysts were like, there's not like strong customer demand where everyone's like, we want slim phones. They in the end, everyone wants a good battery and a good camera, but it is that fresh form factor, right? We're bored of buying the same phone that looks the same every year. And in the same way that foldables offered like a fresh perspective, it's not like everybody was begging for a book style foldable, but it's fun. And even flip phones are fun. So I think this will be a nice change of pace. And I'm curious when, hopefully we get our hands on these things, if we're like, oh, wow, this standard phone feels like such a brick now. Can you believe that I used to use that thing? And
I can't wait for the bend tests.
Oh, yeah. See, that's going to be a thing. Put it in your back pocket, sit down, see what happens.
It's going to be more susceptible to that.
Yeah.
It's just basic engineering at this point. Yep. But it'll be interesting to see, how Unbox Therapy, Lou and Zach over at JRig Everything and the usual suspects, how it fares in their hands. I'm going to be excited about that. But stay tuned, folks. Speaking of thin and cool and like we talked folding, you played with this projector that I've seen now at MWC. I saw it at CES as well. It's very cool. Tell us about it. What is it? What's your take?
Yeah. So imagine you have a projector, but you can fold it up and put it in your pocket and just take it on the go. This is the Aurzen Zip projector. I got to play around with a little bit at MWC, and it's now available to order on Amazon. So I love when you see a product actually become available after a trade show. But this can project anything you want up to 80 inches in size, which is great because when I held it, it was okay. I have my makeup compact here. Imagine it's like probably a little bit bigger than this, and it's a trifold, which is cool. And so you can really just take it wherever you want. It's still the resolution tops out at 720p, but they plan to bump it to 1080p in the next version. But the colors looked good to me. Obviously bumping that resolution wouldn't hurt, but it still looked pretty great. The other downside is that battery can only last an hour and a half on a single charge. Right. So you can always plug it in and keep it going. So that's nice. But, I guess if you're on the go, that'll last you just enough. Keep that movie nice and short. Watch a couple episodes, whatever you want to do. But there's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery and 25 watt charging. And it's priced at just under $400. So not too bad, unless that price has gone up. But that's what the price was at least last week.
Check again every day.
Exactly. Just you never know. But the way it works right now is you're able to mirror content from your smartphone, but only from Netflix for now. I don't know if that's expanded yet, but at least that's what they told me back in March. But and then anything else that you want to project, you have to buy a separate HDMI dongle. Which also was like an additional $100. So hopefully that's something they work through. Again, I'm sure future iterations will improve upon that. But I just love that idea because I think projectors are really cool, but they're bulky, they're expensive. Imagine you have a presentation and you just want to take something quickly on the go, throw it in your purse, throw it in your pocket.
I know. It's like you pull it out of your purse and boom.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. Do you imagine yourself potentially leaning towards something like this?
I would totally do that. I'd be like, wait up, we're at the restaurant. It's dark. Let's project on the wall behind us. And everybody's going like, what?
Exactly. Or like, have you seen the latest episode of Let Me Just Show You? Pull it out and then you're good to go. I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
I actually asked them for a review in it. I don't know if they're going to send me one.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because I've been, I saw it too. I played with it in both CS and MWC, and I was like, yeah, keep in touch. And they were like, they're a little scattered. So I eventually pinged them again, and they're like, oh, yeah, okay. But I haven't, Theo, my producer, who handles all that stuff. Yeah. They said it hasn't been confirmed yet. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll get one. But in the meantime, Abrar's got you covered on CNET, so go check it out. It's pretty cool to play with.
Yeah.
We have a bunch more items so many phones came out. Last week, Michael Fisher and I, Mr. Mobile, we did all the Razer. It was Razer all the time. We did it in person in New York, which was great. But obviously more phones came out, and I want to cover these a little bit now. The one I'm most excited about, honestly, because, well, how can you not be excited about this? It's a CMF Phone 2 Pro by Nothing. This thing is incredible. I'm about to show you in a second. I'm just trying to look up the price because I know it's incredibly affordable. It's like, what, $279.
It's amazing.
Okay, so let's show you this. I'm going to unbox it for you guys. So this is the box. Phone Pro 2 Pro, and then, you know, this phone has an AI button like the Nothing Phone 3A series, and it has the same chip as the Nothing Phone 3A. It has an OLED at 120 hertz. It has a telephoto at 50 megapixel and a main at 50 megapixel and an ultra wide at 8 megapixel. It's got a, I don't know what size battery, but it's decent. And it costs $279. And
that's
so
amazing.
Here's, I'm not going to fully unbox it, but here's the text. It says, well, isn't this exciting? Moments like this are why we're here. That anticipation to get started, to unlock something new. Thank you for being a part of our world. Here, your voice can be heard and your creativity celebrated. Use hashtag, oh, this is great. Use hashtag with nothing on Instagram.
Love it.
And of course, they tell you to join nothing.community if you want to participate in feedback, which is great. Okay, so there's a divider here. Hang on, I got to see what I'm doing. So there's a divider, you pull on it, and there's a bunch of accessories in here, I'm pretty sure. Maybe, is there a case?
Ooh.
That would be
That'd
crazy.
be a nice bonus.
Yeah, hang on, there's something in here. Yes, yes. So there's a TPU case, as you can see here.
So cool.
And then let's see what else we got. Oh, the phone, of course. So the phone, duh. I'm not going to take it out of its little sheath, but I want to show you this camera system because it's proper. And then you got that little wheel you can unscrew to put the kickstand or the lanyard from last year. They still work. They didn't send me any accessories, which is unfortunate. But here's the thing you need to understand is, unfortunately, the back panel, remember last year, the phone cost, what, $230 or something? And last year, the back panel would completely come off, and the battery wasn't removable, but like, you could get to the guts of the phone that way. But this year, even though there are screws, the back panel doesn't come off. The color accessory, like last year when you change the back panel, you change the color of your phone, basically, right? And you had a matching SIM tray that matched the color, and then you had accessories that screw on various parts of those screws. Those screws are still there. You can still screw on some of those accessories. Not all of them fit from last year, but you can't remove the cover. You can add on with the screws these, change the color of your phone, or basically put a case on your phone by screwing it on, like a harder case than this soft one that comes in it. The rest of this is another divider, and you got a very, very nice little Nothing cord and some paperwork. And what's in, oh, that's the little screwdriver in here. Hang on.
Oh, nice.
It comes with a tiny, oh no, that's a SIM ejection tool. I think it also comes with a screwdriver. But check out this cool SIM ejection tool.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like, it's square and yeah.
See, even that has like fun detail.
I guess the screwdriver, I don't see a screwdriver in the box this time. So maybe, oh, that's right. It came with the accessories. Since they didn't send me any accessories. Come on, guys. Well, look, it's not sold in the US beyond their developer beta program. So I think that we can't complain too much here, you know. But also, so the phone's great. I need to try it out. I just got it a few days ago. I've just been really busy with other things. So hang tight, folks. Next week, I'll have stuff for you. But they also made buds. And I want to talk about these a little bit because they are freaking amazing. They're $69.
Incredible.
Right? These are the CMF Buds 2 Plus. There's three. There's a 2A, 2 Plus. And they're like $49, $59, $69. And actually somebody, I can't remember who, wrote an article about like, it was as Gizmodo. And he said, you know, I don't know what the difference is because I only have the Plus, which is what I got too. But how can they be so different? Like, what can possibly be different at $10 apart? Oh, it's Ray Wong. It was Ray. But I have to say, look, everybody knows on the podcast, I'm a bit of an audiophile. Like, I'm not officially because that's terrible, but like I'm not that picky. Like, I'm budget audio. Like I really like audio that's good but affordable. Like this Beyerdynamic GT770 Pros, if you want wired headphones, these are the ones that kind of like don't have an open thing, so you don't bother your neighbor at the desk. Then you have the 990 Pros, which are open, but they sound the same, and they both cost $169. And honestly, you can't beat that. Like these Beyerdynamics are like the reference for me, and it's $169. Yes, you can spend 2,000 on their high-end Beyerdynamics. They're not going to sound that much better than this. So I kind of like the budgety stuff. Now, with earbuds right now, my favorite are the OnePlus Buds Pro 3 and the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. Wow, I remember that. Amazing.
I know, it's a lot of words.
I'm not a big fan of AirPods. AirPods Pro, I feel like they're fine. And of course, it's the integration with the ecosystem that really makes a difference, you know, like being able to switch devices automatically and all that stuff. All that's great. But if you want sound quality and good ANC, I feel like the competition at Samsung and OnePlus/Oppo/BBK is doing a better job. Now, CMF, the other ones that I really like are the Nothing earbuds, like the higher end ones, the Ear and the Ear A or whatever they're called, the slightly mid-range ones. They're incredible for the money. I recommend them to everyone. But here's the thing. Last time they did CMF buds that they sent me, because it's like, I think, 4th or 5th generation for them now, it was the Buds 2 Pro, which are the same case as this, but red. And this little dial here is just a fidget spinner right now. You can, there's a hole for a lanyard, as you can see there. Nice. But on the 2 Pro, this is actually a volume button, which was really cool. But the 2 Pro sounded okay, like fine, but I wouldn't be like, go out and buy them. Whereas these, I'm like, these are like 90% of the Nothing Ear, the proper, you know, 200, whatever, 170.
Amazing.
For $69. Now, do they have as good noise canceling? No, but the sound quality with a bit of EQ, which you can do in the app, are like, mwah. And that blows my mind. You know, it's like, that's the kind of thing that gets me really excited. Is like, I can tell somebody, look, you're on a budget, you want really good earbuds, boom. And I think these are sold in the US, like on Amazon or something.
That's amazing. I love that.
What's your experience with like earbuds and headphones and that kind of stuff? Are you into reviewing that stuff? And do you have a favorite?
So our resident expert is David Carnoy at CNET, and he's fantastic.
Right.
In terms of my own personal experience, I wish I liked earbuds. I really do, because let me tell you, when I bring my giant Beats case in on my commute, I have to have a bag that's big enough to fit this thing, right? So it's not convenient to like these guys, but these are my favorite. Beats Studio I love the noise cancellation. I like the way they fit, their comfort level. Earbuds don't stay in my ears. And also because I wear a hijab, it's like, it's more of a hassle to stick them under than it is to just put something over. Plus, you know, I kind of like the appearance of over-ear headphones anyway. I think it's got
a more don't mess with me. I'm really busy right now kind of vibe. Where the earbuds, you're like, maybe I can bug you. Maybe I can tap you on the shoulder. Yeah, I get it.
So I appreciate that, but I have tried, I have a version of the Galaxy Buds from 2 years ago, which if I really want to take something a bit more on the go, I'll there you go.
I'm just going to do a visual demo while you talk.
Perfect. So those are good for when I'm in a pinch and I just want to throw something in my bag. But otherwise, my go-to is genuinely my wired Apple headphones, earbuds that that's when I really just don't want to carry this giant case around. But yeah, I'm happy with although these Beats Studios are the version that still had the micro USB.
Oh.
So that's kind of a bummer, because then I have to always bring my charging cable when I travel, because what else do I use that for? And I'm USB-C on everything almost. But otherwise I'm very happy with them.
Cool. Yeah. I actually have another pair of headphones that I got. These are wireless noise canceling Bluetooth headphones from One More. Nice little red accents.
Ooh, I like that.
Says left and right inside of them.
That's fun.
And then, you know, even the plugs are red, which is cool.
Wow. I love that.
They come in different colors too. So the reason I bring these up is, again, you know me, the picky budget audiophile that I am. One More does good stuff. Generally, their higher end stuff is really good, but I've never tried their affordable stuff. And I was like, yeah, send me a pair. These are $79.
That's amazing.
USB-C. Decent noise canceling. We're not talking as good as, you know, the Bose Quiet Comfort or the Sony XM4 or 5, whatever, the top of the line Sonys that I use when I fly. But For $79, I actually had them on the flight back from New York just to try them out on the flight, and I wasn't complaining. And they sound really good. Again, they have an app with EQ if you want to adjust things. For $79.
It's amazing.
Like, it makes me go like, okay, durability, longer term, that's the big question, right? A lot of these, if you wear them a lot like we do, or for me, when I fly, and I fly a lot, it's like the cushions wear out and they disintegrate after some time. And sometimes with big brands, it's easy. Third parties make replacements. The company makes replacements. Like Beyerdynamic, everything's modular. You can undo the cable and everything, replace everything. Generally, these last me about a good decade before they completely fall apart to the point where it's worth spending another $169, and I wear them every day, right?
Yeah.
But with a wireless Bluetooth noise canceling ones, generally they last me like 3-4 years. But this, I'm worried, like, how long will it last in terms of, durability is the question. But for immediate use, like right now, after, using them for a few days, few weeks, whatever, a few weeks, I think, it's like $79.
You can't beat that. I mean, that's fantastic.
Or $69 for these earbuds. Like, I think this is kind of where I'm excited. It's like that, and like phones, like, the Pixel 9a, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't go wrong with that. And the price is right.
Absolutely.
And, that's the kind of stuff that I get excited about, because I feel like nobody should be spending, it's like comparing the OnePlus 13 to the Galaxy S25 Ultra, right? It's like $1,400 versus $900 or $1,300 versus $900, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, but OnePlus has got my ticket here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea that it's like you don't have to be balling on a budget to get quality things, and that a lot of these newer tech features are becoming more standard, whether it's active noise cancellation on a pair of earbuds that's great, that can last several hours, or a phone that happens to have all the top-notch features and doesn't cost you $1,000+.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just looking back at the CMF Phone 2 Pro here. The thing I wanted to say was the battery, and I'm looking for that right now. So the nice thing here is that you get a Dimensity 7300 Pro chipset. You get IP54. That's fine considering the price, right? 3,000 nits peak on that display, and 2160 hertz high frequency PWM dimming. Hello, Nick.
There you go.
I know. On a $279 phones, you have no excuse. Apple.
Yeah, exactly.
So the battery, 5,000 milliamp hour, 33 watt charging. No wireless, of course, on this. Yeah. But like, come on, like, this is again,
that's
like,
incredible.
This phone last year, the phone 1 only had a single rear camera. Same one, 50 megapixel, but and no OIS on that. It's fine. But like, the point is, now we have 3 cameras, and it's only like, what, $40, $30 more? It's like,
that's
wow.
amazing.
I know, it's crazy.
What an upgrade. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how they do it, especially in this economy right now.
I know.
Just go buy it right now while
exactly.
if you want it, like, basically. All right. Talking of, the company that Carl also started, the other one he started before he started Nothing, Carl Pei started OnePlus. And OnePlus has come out with a very juicy phone in Asia, specifically China, for the OnePlus 13T. And it's been confirmed now that it's coming to India as the OnePlus 13S. Same phones. It might be coming to other markets, possibly Europe, although right now that's very much up in the air. It's definitely not coming to North America. What is your take on the mini flagship from OnePlus?
Okay, I'm going to confess here that we have someone on the team who covers more of these international releases, who is on maternity leave, and so I haven't been able to get into anything OnePlus related. It's the reason why I covered the Find N5 and recently the Poco F7 Ultra, just because she wasn't here to do that. So, but she would be the one to comment on this. But I'm curious to hear your takes on this, because I'm listening and I'm learning.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, we all have opinion on the Chinese phones, even if we don't play with them. Yeah. I think for me, look, it's not for me. I like bigger phones because I need to be more productive. Although the folding phones now are getting very good, and definitely a good option for me. I think this phone is needed. I think smaller flagship phones are needed. I know they don't sell well. I know that manufacturers are not making them because there doesn't seem to be a market for them. But here's the thing. Variety is what makes it interesting. And I think that China is a good market for that, where there's so many people, right? Like, the middle class in China by itself is bigger than all of the US population, just to give you an idea. So the economic power of China, so they can probably justify making kind of a small, it's not mini, it's compact because it's 6.3 inches, like basically Xiaomi 15 size, not 15 Pro or Ultra. But it's flagship. It's got all the good stuff. And I think that's what I'm excited about, seeing OnePlus or, because Oppo also has their equivalent to that called the Oppo Find X8S. And then Vivo has the Vivo X200 Mini or Plus or S, I can't remember, one of them that just came out. And they're all, because again, formerly BBK Group, they're all sharing the same parts and more or less are the same phones, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I think this is great. Snapdragon 8 Elite, whereas the Oppo has a Dimensity 9400 Plus. So that's kind of typical. And then, you get the same shortcut key, which is like the action button on iPhones that you get on this Find Ultra. You can see it's in a case right now, but the Find X8 Ultra has that key right there. It replaces the alert slider, which is a bit of a bummer. I kind of like the alert slider, but you can program this to do anything, which is, So it has that key. And then, you saw the rest. It got a 260 milliamp hour battery. Like it's a silicon carbon battery and it's like charges at like 80 watt, like on a phone that size. Like
that's fascinating.
It's nuts.
I mean, but you bring up a great point in terms of the size of phones. I feel like there's this pendulum where companies either collectively go small or go big. And I think it is cool to have that variety. I tend to have bigger hands and longer. I don't tend to. I do have bigger hands and longer fingers. So small phone isn't for me, but I think it is cool to have that because some people even, they don't want to gravitate towards a larger phone because it's not easy to navigate. So it is cool to have that range.
Yeah. So it's got dual 50 megapixels cameras, a main and a telephoto 2x though only. So not that great, but anyway, it looks cool and it kind of has like that Pixel 9 Pro Fold camera pod, but turned over.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I really want to try this phone out. For like Spencer, just send me one, please.
Please.
Just for a few days. I promise I'll treat it well. So anyway, I'm excited about that. And it's coming to India, so that should be interesting. The pricing in India should be really interesting to see, right? Speaking of OnePlus, I've got a cool little accessory here. I don't know, this is like, I don't usually show this much stuff on the show, but today I'm feeling very generous. This is the OnePlus power bank. I think it's 5,000 milliamp hour. It's got magnets and MagSafe-ish. I think it's only 7.5 watt. Plastic on this side, metal on the rest. You got a USB port here and a button on the other side. And check this out. Here's a Pixel 9 Pro XL, right? And it's in a Pitaka case. Pitaka case has the magnets and clunk.
Magic.
Oh, yeah. So much goodness. And check it out. We're charging up here.
Look at that.
I know.
And just look again how good it looks with it matches the camera bar. Like it's just so great.
So good cosmetically. Yeah. So that's available, folks. I mean, it came out a while ago and I don't know why I got it so late, but I got it. And so charge your phones.
Those are life-changing battery packs like that. Yeah.
Don't forget to put a MagSafe ring. You can go get those from Pop Sockets. They make magnetic rings that you can stick on with a template so you can center it perfectly on a case or on a phone itself directly. Like if you have a Galaxy S25 Ultra and you want to add the magnets. And that's, or Pitaka or other companies make great cases with the magnets in them. I like Pitaka because it's super thin and it's carbon fiber or whatever that Aramid, I think is called. Fiber material. Anyway, so OnePlus also has their watch and the Watch 3 is great. I reviewed it. Check out my review on Hot Hardware, but it was $330 when it came out, right? And then we think it's terrible. Actually, I think they kind of screwed this up because they should have just like not said anything.
Yeah.
Because they went up to $500.
It's crazy.
And now it's back to $350, I think. And they're refunding you the difference if you recently bought one. But like, nice. I feel like, look, I understand. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's crazy out there. We have a fascist regime running the show. Okay. But why not just wait it out just a little longer and instead of saying, okay, 500, then sell 10 watches and then, I've got to refund 10 people on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your thought on this price thing?
Well, I was really caught up on the typo.
Oh, yeah.
In China.
I have the watch not on me right now because I'm wearing my Pixel, but I have it, and I have the one that says, Meta. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's a relic you'll have to keep forever and ever.
That's an eBay sell in 12 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
But no, I mean that pricing something like that at $500 is wild. So I'm glad that they were like, okay, let's reel this in. That's not gonna land well. I'm honestly surprised they're giving people that refund. I don't think most companies are that generous. So
no, that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah,
right?
it was. Yeah. I'm glad they care about how people react to things like that. But yeah, I'm glad they got their bearings again and realized, okay, let's reel this back. But yeah, what have your impressions been? Well, I guess we have to stay tuned, right? Any top of mind impressions
on the watch?
Yeah.
Oh, my review's up on Hot
Okay,
Cover,
good.
so just check it out. I've had I think I reviewed it under embargo, so it's been a little while.
Perfect,
I love that watch. It's my favorite. I decided to go back to my Pixel watch for a little bit just to see, because I was like, I haven't worn that like a month or something, or more than a month. So I was like, okay, it's fine. It's actually right now needs to be charged because normally I have the always on display, but as you can see, it's only popping up when I touch it. Right. That's the thing that I'm noticing, the biggest thing I'm noticing. So I went from the OnePlus watch that I wore for a month. I went back to San Francisco where all my watches are stored, and I grabbed the Galaxy Watch Ultra and wore that for the week I was there. And again, I was like, immediately was like, I like the way it looks, especially because I have the orange strap. Yeah. But battery life is just not there compared to
a bummer.
Because I'm getting, get this, with always on display on my OnePlus Watch 3, I'm getting 5 days.
That's amazing.
I know.
That's how it should be.
And I mean,
too.
I don't exercise much, so it's like not running the GPS very much and stuff like that. I admit that. But like, okay, 4 days easily. The Galaxy Watch, I'm happy to get 2 days, maybe. This is a bit longer, so I switched to that on my flight out to New York to do the Moto stuff, and I've been wearing it since. But I brought the OnePlus Watch with me because I think I'm switching back. But the point I'm making is it's nice to get a reality check. We get so many devices, like you get stuck on this device, and the last thing you remember is this device. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, and then I was like, I wonder how much different it'll feel now to wear this. Yeah, after wearing this battery life 2.5 or so. That's maybe
not great. No.
And then they both Galaxy and the Pixel Watch both charge so slowly compared to the OnePlus. The OnePlus, you can put it on the charger for 30 minutes and you're full.
That's amazing. Gosh, we are so behind with our American products.
Now, granted, the OnePlus Watch is a big watch. It's heavy. You know, this is a little bit easier. This is the big one, but it's you get a smaller version. Blah blah blah. So, I think it's not for everyone, but it's a bit butch. I think that doesn't fit everyone, right? Yeah. Same with the Galaxy Watch Ultra. That's true.
I was going to say that's a chunky
one.
But it works for some people.
I feel like Apple Watch Ultra has managed to be butch without being too gendered. Like I feel like you could probably get away with wearing one. Anyone could, but anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So the last phone we have to talk about is really important that's been announced this week, in my opinion, is the Vivo X200 Ultra. So there's always every year 3 crazy camera phone flagships, right? They're all Ultra phones, and you've got generally the Xiaomi 15. Well, right now it's 15 Ultra. It was 14 Ultra last year. They didn't send me one. I've got the 14 Ultra, and I got the 15 regular. I don't know what happened there. Find X8 or X7 last year Ultra, and then Vivo X200 Ultra just came out, and prior to that, X100 Ultra. And those phones are like, if you are a camera buff and you happen to want a phone, that's a flagship. Like it's a camera with a phone on it, right? Not a phone with a camera on it, kind of. So those phones are exciting, and the 200 is out, and Ultra. And Benson has an incredible video. Ben always is like me, a bit of a camera, mobile photography buff. So he just went ahead and did some really cool content on that. All I suggest is you watch the video, check it out, and subscribe to Ben's channel. It's great. But of course, it's flagship, so it's got all the good like 8 Elite stuff on there, and it's got like tons of RAM and storage, and beautiful display and all the trimmings. But it's the cameras that are really, it's like, and it's very similar to the Xiaomi 15 Ultra here in terms of that large 200 megapixel HP9 sensor from Samsung that is the telephoto sensor. So they can really, really zoom with this thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a bit different from the approach that Oppo has with the Find X8 Ultra, which has a 3x and a 6x periscope telephoto, and then that's how it does its stuff. Whereas the Vivo only has 3 cameras. It's got 2 identical 50 megapixel or really large sensors. So it probably has the best ultra wide of any phone right now, because it's got a big sensor, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and an identically big sensor, but not 1 inch main sensor, and then that 200 megapixel crazy telephoto thing. And yeah, the results are, you'll see, amazing. But more importantly, there's a camera kit, which is like Xiaomi had the camera kit for last year and this year too. But their camera kit was just essentially a case with a grip. The grip adds a bit of battery, has, little zoom toggle and like a little dial that lets you adjust exposure. You can program it to do whatever. It's got the double the 10 camera button on it. It lets you grip the phone really nice. And then on Xiaomi, there's also a little adapter thing that lets you mount like standard filters that you put on a normal camera lens, so that you can put like an ND filter or a polarizer or something. All of that exists on Xiaomi's current 15 Ultra photography kit, and all of that exists also on the 200 Ultra from Vivo. However, Vivo went one step further, and in their camera kit, they put a telephoto adapter, basically this cannon of a lens that's like this long, like 3 or 4 inches long, about 1 inch around, and it screws onto the telephoto through the adapter in the back, which is part of the photography case. And it gives you even further reach. Like it doubles, I think, the reach of the telephoto, but optically instead of, cropping sensor stuff. So why would you use, I don't think I would use that. It has to fit in my pocket.
Yeah. The only thing that I can think of is imagine taking it to a concert and you're in the nosebleeds and then you get better photos, that'd be cool. But otherwise.
I agree. But I think like the grip kind of still makes sense because you can still potentially fit the camera with the grip in your pocket. At least that was my experience for the Xiaomi 14 Ultra last year. But then like if you have to put that in another pocket and mount.
It's true. It does add some bulk. It's still, it's less bulky than a giant camera, but it's still more to carry. Yes.
I feel like they're trying to one up each other with the camera kit, and I support it. It's kind of cool, but like, but anyway, check out Ben's video. We knew this phone was coming. It's leaked to death. It's very cool. Of course, you got a giant battery, 6,000 milliamp hour. Of course,
that's
of course
great.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to do a kind of quick little hat tip to Moto for launching the Moto Edge 60 series in Europe. Right now, rest of the world, it's not North America. But these are the flagships that are bar phones. They were announced the same time as the Razr last week. And so they are interesting because they are not super flagshipy in terms of spec. Like cameras are definitely the focus here. Really nice displays. But when you look at them, they have like plastic frames, large 6,000 milliamp hour battery. They have 90 watt fast charging, which is nice, 15 watt wireless. But the processors are like, Dimensity 7300 for the 60. And I think it's like 8350, a Dimensity 8350 for the 60 Pro. So they're not like 9400 or 8 Elite type phones, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of like let guys know if you're in Europe or something and you love your Moto phones and you're looking for a bar phone, they're not too expensive either. I can't remember the price, but they're not bad. So that's cool. 380 pounds for the 60 and 600 pounds for the 60 Pro. So, not like $1,000.
Right.
And then we've got a couple of phones from our friends at ZTE/Nubia/RedMagic. So these are kind of, the Z70S Ultra is kind of like the RedMagic 10S Pro or whatever, where they take the existing phone and then they do a small hardware update on it, like mid-cycle before next year. Somehow Nubia and RedMagic just love to do that. So this Z70S Ultra is basically the Z70 Ultra from before, but with a slightly different main camera sensor. It's a little bigger. So it still has the 8 Elite, still has the beautiful display, the under-display camera of, the selfie one that they've kind of perfected. That squarish, crazy, monolithic design, but slightly bigger main camera. There you go.
Can't complain about bigger
I don't
camera.
know. Like the nice thing about the Nubia and the RedMagic, they're generally sold in the US and they have US compatible 5G bands. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit off the beaten path and you don't worry too much about software updates, maybe. The RedMagic 10 Air is a thinner RedMagic 10, which is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 instead of the 8 Elite, and it doesn't have the fan anymore because it's thinner, but it has very good thermals, it has great battery, the same display as the 10, all that stuff, the shoulder buttons, all that's the gaming phone, it has the same cameras, but it didn't come out officially in the US or the rest of the world until last week. It was announced like 2 weeks ago, China only, and then typical RedMagic a week later or whatever, 2 weeks later, hey, by the way, it's coming to the rest of the world. So,
surprise! Yeah.
Have you played with any of these Nubia and RedMagic phones? They're kind of hard to get your hands on.
Yeah, no, I haven't. But I love the idea of going off the beaten path, and so power to you. If you
What's interesting, since you do camera stuff, the interesting thing about the Z70 and the Z70S Ultra is that even though one has a slightly better main camera, they both have really large main camera sensors. They have a variable aperture on that main camera, and nice. Periscope telephoto and a pretty big ultra wide. But their main camera is not a standard 1x like 24 millimeter. It's a 35 millimeter.
Oh, interesting.
So your ultra wide has to carry you from. It's actually very wide. The ultra wide starts at like I think 12 degrees, so it's like really wide, and it goes all the way to 35. So you have presets on the little zoom levels, and one of them is 24, 25, whatever, which would be equivalent to 1x on a normal phone. Right. But that's like still on the ultra wide. You're cropping the ultra wide. So but the nice thing is that obviously that massive sensor that is your 35 millimeter main really starts at 1.4, and it goes, all the way to the 2.7 or 3x that the telephoto does. So you get that portrait area, like that 50 millimeter shots are going to be super, super clear. Plus you can vary the aperture, so you can make the bouquet as creamy as you want. Yeah, it's interesting. The only thing they lack, these phones, is wireless charging. Everything about them is great. Big batteries, lots of fast charging and all that.
You can't have it all.
No.
You gotta pick and choose.
You know that. This is like the bane of our existence
I know.
as phone reviewers.
So
it's like, you want that? No.
Yep. Sorry.
It's like,
that's where we draw the line.
That's why we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide on the Find N5.
Right, exactly.
Well, we got wireless charging, which we didn't have on the Open. So
see, there you go. Guess we have to be grateful.
See, I should have shut my mouth during the Open briefing when I yelled at them for not having wireless charging.
This is what you get.
This is what I get. Well, listen, Abrar, we should wrap up. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, all the various social media handles, your stuff at CNET and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my stuff's on CNET.com and on CNET's YouTube. And I am on Instagram, Abrar Al-Heeti, no spaces, no hyphens. Same on TikTok. TikTok is not work-related at all, but it's fun. Come hang out with me. Watch me make a fool of myself. It's good. And I'm on X occasionally, Al-Heeti_3.
Awesome. And folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankrl, that's TNKGRL. Just like the comic book characters, just drop all the vowels and you're there. That's my handle pretty much everywhere. I'm primarily active on Threads and Instagram and Blue Sky, but I'm everywhere. So please follow me there. Obviously, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. It's on all the major podcasting platforms. So if you have an app you like, just add the podcast. If your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. It would help. And so subscribe if it's your first time here. And then there's some video content on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, of course. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. There's occasional videos. I just did a video on the Razer. That's kind of like free visual content for you guys. And finally, if you want to support me, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/Tankrl, again, TNKGRL, just drop the vowels. And that gets you some perks. One of them is that you can get a video version of this podcast. You get it at like 12 hours, 24 hours in advance from the free public audio only version. And you get to see me and my guests brandish devices. You see our faces, our reactions, and stuff like that. Sometimes I also leave in bloopers and little extras like I did with Michael last week. So check it out. Patreon.com/Tankrl if you can support me. That would be awesome. And I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, Abrar, for being my guest. Thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was such a joy. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Folks, we'll have Abrar on at some point in the future. And of course, we'll have a podcast next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.